Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another round of Base's Picks. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Now, do you know what? There's actually a couple of fight cards on tonight. There was also a fight card on last night as well, but by the time this comes out, they will kind of have been obsolete. However, I do expect Pierce O'Leary to get through Dara Foley quite comfortable, and I'm expecting Conor Quinn to win tonight also. So that's them. Also, there is what's his name, Pierce facing San Martin, the American guy. I can't remember his first name off the top of my head, but yeah, that's also on tonight. Lamont Roach is he's got his the WBA, what is that, the super featherweight title fight tonight as well. Either way, I'm expecting all of those guys to all of those guys to get the victories. But that being said, there's a couple cards on tomorrow, nothing of great shakes. There's one very, very big fight which we definitely will be talking about last, and maybe a couple of undercard fights. So hopefully this video shouldn't actually be that long. That being said, let me jump over to the top rank card and give my thoughts on the main event there, maybe one of the undercard fights. Okay, so moving on to the top rank card, which is taking place, I believe, in Florida, somewhere in Miami. It's Teofimo Lopez versus Steve Claggett. The undercard, there's building fights, but there's no what I would call 50-50s on there really. Robesi Ramirez, I expect to do a very big job on Brandon Benitez. Yan Santana, obviously highly touted prospect. I think 11-0, 11 KOs. I expect him to get the job done. Elvis Rodriguez as well should be on the comeback trail after suffering a shock defeat in his previous bout. But let's talk about Teofimo Lopez versus Steve Claggett. Steve Claggett is the kind of opponent that's tailor-made for Teofimo Lopez, in the sense that he is a come-forward, aggressive fighter, high guard, throwing high volume of punches, trying to dip underneath the lead hand to be able to spring up to shoot big hooks and then work away to the body on the inside, and wants to just stay close to his opponent to sort of rough them up. This is the kind of guy that Teofimo loves to fight, because he prefers to be on the back foot. He prefers to time his opponents. He prefers to be a counter puncher. I can't see many scenarios where he is not literally just timing the hell out of Steve Claggett in this fight. From maybe not round one. I think round one he may look to just understand exactly the movements of Claggett, how he's going to move, how he's going to shape up in the ring, and probably just look to stay a bit cautious and stay safe in that round, so he doesn't get caught cold. But after that, I can see him just starting to find those openings, starting to find those counters, possibly even put Claggett into his shell a little bit until somewhere maybe like round 4, round 5. But as what I've kind of seen of Steve Claggett, he will essentially start coming forward again. He will try a second stanza, especially in those middle to late rounds, and ultimately I can kind of just see a scenario where he gets walked onto a counter, staggered, wobbled, falls back towards the ropes. Teofimo probably goes in for the kill, referee jumps in and calls off the fight. And I'm actually predicting that to kind of take place in and around between rounds 5 to 7. I'm reckoning, I'm gonna say round 7, because I feel like Claggett will at least try and be durable and maybe try to make a good showing of himself, so not be too reckless in the opening half of the fight. But yeah, like I said, between rounds 5 to 7, but I'm going to go towards the low, go about 7th round. So moving over to the Matchroom card taking place in Phoenix, Arizona. This card has actually got a couple of more fights that I'm actually interested to watch. But for the purpose of time, we're going to just kind of talk in depth about two of them. So before getting to that, you got Yemi Left Mercado versus Ramla Ali for the WBC what title? I think it's the super bantamweight title, so 122 pounds. Without going too deep into it, Yemi Mercado is the more experienced of the two. She is she's the younger. She's younger by I think 8 years. I think she's at 26. Ramla Ali is 35. Obviously, Ramla has suffered a knockout defeat before. Yemi has never been knocked out. You know, tough Mexican. She used to be a bit more of a come forward brawler, but she's started to adapt herself into more of a puncher, in like a boxer. Now, if she decides to stick with that style, she will lose this fight purely because Ramla Ali is the taller ranger of the two, probably the more skilled boxer in the classic amateur style, which is, you know, goes very well hand in hand with those 2-minute rounds and sort of banking rounds that way. Ramla does sometimes have a penchant to get caught up in a firefight, in a little bit of a trade, but her with Manny Robles in her corner, she's, you know, she does have a little bit of the steel, but we've seen that she can get chin checked and she can be dropped and stopped. However, I actually don't think Yemi Mercado is going to try to box with her. I think she's going to look to see what worked against Yelisa Guzman, and I think she's going to look at some of the other fights that Ramla's had and the issues she's had with them, and probably revert more to a come forward pressure type style. She may be slightly quicker of the two, even though Ramla, I guess, has got the better footwork. But if she gets on the inside, you know, sort of roughs up Ramla a little bit, then I can see her being pretty successful. That being said, I actually am going to go with the champion, Yemi Left Mercado, to win this fight. I think it may be close on the cards. It could potentially be a split decision because obviously she is the champ, but Ramla is technically the house fighter, you know, signed to Matchroom. So I'm going to pick Yemi Mercado to win the fight via a split decision, maybe a majority. We've also got Arturo Popoca on the card, but I won't really speak too much about that one. You know, sort of fun Mexican fighter. I'm sure he's there to kind of do the business. It's not a showcase fight as such, but you know, it's a fight where he is there to make a name and make a statement. Moving to the chief support on this card, Sonny Showtime Edwards versus Adrian Curiel. Now, we saw Curiel possibly with the upset of the year against Sivanati Nonshinga last year on the Monte Carlo show that DAZN had. You know, since then you had Nonshinga. He came back in the rematch, and he basically did what no one was picking him to do except myself and a couple of others. He made the adjustments, he fought in the pocket, and he got knocked out in the first fight, but he came back with the knockout win in the second one. So Curiel obviously is now coming back from that knockout defeat, as is Sonny Edwards, who was obviously stopped in the corner against Bam Rodriguez in his last fight, which I believe was November. It was December or November. I think it was December last year. So you know, sort of 6.5 months later, back in the ring, and this fight is taking place at flyweight. I predict that while Sonny Edwards obviously has the movement and the abilities to be able to take this fight to a 12 rounds unanimous decision, I can see him actually trying to hold his feet a little bit, maybe stay in the pocket a little bit more, not move as much, not have to exert as much energy with movement, but may overexert in some points just in terms of the actual fighting. Now, Curiel, while he doesn't have a great knockout ratio, neither does Sonny, so you may say that neither of them are the biggest of punchers, but usually those are the fights where you have the hardest battles. The guy isn't a big puncher, but you're still taking numerous amounts of head trauma. That being said, Sonny is just the better schooled of the two. He's the cleaner puncher. It looks like he's probably got the better engine, or at least he's got the better round management, and I can just see him making Curiel look stupid in several rounds in this fight, up until the point where maybe it does get a little bit where he needs a rest, maybe goes to step on the ropes and whatnot, and then allows Curiel back into the fight briefly before sort of closing it out strong. I am going to go with Sonny Edwards on a strong unanimous decision. I think there may be actually some points where he potentially does buzz Curiel a little bit, and I think there may be a potential that he gets caught with a shot when he is trading on the inside, but I do think he will shake that off and again win the fight fairly comfortably, and sort of just go back to that that number one spot, potentially. I think looking at Galal fight as the next fight after that. Moving on to the main event, you've got let's do it the correct way. You've got Juan Francisco Estrada versus Jesse Bam Rodriguez. Estrada obviously coming off of the last fight he had was the trilogy with Chocolatito Gonzalez. You guys know my opinion on both the rematch and the trilogy. Estrada was given the victory in both of those fights. I believe that Chocolatito won both. I believe that he won the second fight very, very clearly, and the third fight was a lot closer, but I still think he did enough to win that one in the end. So I think he should be 3-0 against Francisco Estrada, but Estrada currently, he has the better and the best in of him. He hasn't been in the ring for going on 18 months now, which, ring rust at the age of 35, not making the weight for 18 months. I can see that being an issue in terms of taking its toll, especially when the fight sort of gets to the nitty gritty. But with Bam sort of coming back up to super flyweight after realizing that it was really difficult to make flyweight in his last fight, back up at super fly, soon gonna outgrow this weight as well. I can see him just having too much size, youth and exuberance over Estrada. Now Francisco Estrada is probably gonna be up on the cards early with just that engineering, that nous, that expertise, being in those big fights consistently, knowing what it takes to amass a lead. But I do feel like, same with the sort of the Sonny Edwards fight, Bam is just he's gonna get to Estrada from the early late rounds to the middle rounds. So we're talking like round 5, from sort of rounds 5, round 6, round 7, he's going to start to take over the fight, start to change up the momentum, and I can see Estrada trying to fight against the tide, coming to sort of rounds 8, 9, 10, 11. In that moment, I do think Juan Francisco Estrada will potentially end up facing a bit of a crisis. He may get under the cosh a little bit, and I can see a potential where he maybe even gets knocked off his feet in those later rounds 9, 10ish. But with the heart of the heart of a warrior, not wanting to go out, I guess, like a chump in terms of and lose his belt in that way, I can see him just about making it to the end of this fight, potentially having to hold some dirty tactics to get the ref to maybe break up the action, the synergy a few times, to get some breathers, to be able to move and get out of the way. But I see it go in the distance. There could very well be a late stoppage for Bam, but I see Juan Francisco Estrada making it to the final bell, and even though it could be fairly close on the cards, I do think it will end up being a unanimous decision for Jesse Bam Rodriguez. I'm talking 115, 113 type cards, maybe even like 115, 114, where you might have a draw around here or there. that's my prediction. It definitely, see it as being a unanimous decision, but I see it being, you know, a fight where, you know, Bam's got to sort of come from behind, in terms to get a victory here. That's my opinion. Like I said, it's not a big week, but of action, it's not a huge amount of fights, but there's some intriguing ones. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think of the cards, or who you've got winning. If there's any others you want, just put them down in the comments and I'll give you a brief summary of those fights. But with that being said, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. But for right now, it's Basis Picks locked.